What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing this evening? Go ahead and get this music bill over. How's everybody doing today? See, some people are here watching. Have a few people here. Let's go all good. All right, let's go ahead and set the music. Cool. All right. So we got a lot of news to cover because that's what we do here. If you don't know me, I go by the name of Cypher, also by Anthony, and this is the Crowdsourced Politics Weekly News Roundup. We do this roundup in order to bring the news of the week with the kind of analysis only the crowd can provide. We also do this because we wanted to beat the big boys to the Friday news roundups they have and the Sunday shows. So we do it on Thursdays to try to beat them to the punch a little bit, although we do miss some things that happened over the weekend or on Friday. But it's usually all right. It's usually pretty all right. We don't really miss too much there, and I think I have to resume my camera here. Let me do that really quick. There we go. I knew something was off because it was all fuzzy. So anyways, we have breaking news that we're going to share with you. We're going to preempt our Ukraine coverage to talk about something that happened just at the 6:30. Happened at 6:30. So if you don't know what it is, you're going to know in a minute. But before we get into that, let's talk about some stuff that's happening and what I'm trying to do. So every other Wednesday from, we'll say, every other Wednesday, let's see, not next week, but the week after. So every other Wednesday, starting on the 9th, we are going to do at least 2 Wednesdays a month. We're going to do another stream or a hangout session. What does that mean? Well, it means that we're going to either be in debates. I'm going to either be in a debate with people. I'll be hanging out in the Discord so we can just talk while I game. We might not stream those because I haven't really fully decided if I want to stream gaming content to this channel or not. But we will be hanging around at the very least while we do that. And if people want to just hang out like on a random Wednesday or every other Wednesday, we'll be there for you. So it's giving me a little bit of time to like decompress from the week, play some video games and stuff, and having it settled, having it scheduled is going to be really good for me because I'm a busy guy. I'm just going to say it. I'm a busy guy between work, wife, friends, everything else. It's hard for me to set aside time unless I put it in the calendar. So I'm putting in the calendar, and that's what we're going to be doing. So feel free to join us Wednesdays on Discord. We'll be doing a variety of different things and the like. We'll also be having community events where we'll do like watch parties and stuff, talk about like what we're into, what we're listening to, what kind of things that are interesting, that sort of thing. Another thing that we're going to be doing is that over the weekend, I'm going to put together a Discord channel in our Discord that is going to talk about things that I am doing now, meaning what's coming up, what is like events and calendars and stuff. The event calendars there, we're going to start utilizing that more, but we're also going to have like, you know, recommendations of things that you should listen to as far as like podcasts are concerned or other streamers, like a recommended list, what I'm listening to right now, what I'm reading right now, that sort of stuff. Not just politics either. It could be cultural. It could be just for entertainment. I'm currently reading the Codex Alera series by Jim Butcher. So I'm like about halfway through book 2. I'm a bit of a slow reader, so it's going slowly, but that's what I'm doing. Might do some maybe book recommendations, some book reviews, that sort of thing. But those things will be happening in the Discord. They won't happen necessarily live on Twitch or YouTube. So not necessarily going to be streamed, but will be talked about in the Discord and things like that in our cool little entertainment section. So that's something we're going to add up. But anyways, without further ado, though, we're going to go ahead and start the show because I know that's what you guys are here for. And you don't want to hear me prattle on and on and on about stuff that doesn't really matter right now because you need to know what the news is. So let's go ahead and get that started. All right, so we're bringing you the latest Sorry. My bad. Hey, glad your hair grip, gambler. Appreciate it. All right, let's get into the news though. We'll bring you the latest on Russia's war in Ukraine next week to make room for tonight's broadcast on breaking news in the Trump stolen document case. Business Insider reported on the superseding indictment in the classified documents case handed down at 7:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this evening. The initial indictment, filed on June 9th, accused Trump of breaking federal law by taking documents with him when he left office. Some of the documents recovered in a raid at his Mar-a-Lago resort last year contained classified information related to national security interest and security issues. Some of the charges brought against him involved violations of the Espionage Act. Prosecutors also named Walt Nauta, a personal aide to Trump, as a co-defendant in that case. The new indictment added 2 additional charges against Trump and a named third defendant, Carlos de Oliveira, who was a property manager at Mar-a-Lago. Prosecutors alleged Trump, Nauta, and de Oliveira attempted to delete surveillance footage. Yes, delete surveillance footage. That is obstruction of justice in the summer of 2022 to obstruct the investigation. Trump has previously denied all wrongdoing in this case. His spokesperson told the Associated Press the updated indictment has nothing more than a continued, desperate, and flailing attempt by the Biden administration to harass President Trump and those around him and to influence the 2024 presidential race. We should be full up and transparent that we do not believe what Trump said is true. In fact, he is a lying liar with pants on fire. And it seems that based on this indictment, based on information that came out during the grand jury case, that people are flipping on him more than Simone Biles does during her gymnast routine. So we are going to be covering that now, and we're going to dive right in. We're going to start in the indictment with the indictment on page 25 of the indictment and go through and jump. We're going to jump around a bit. I'm going to pull it up on camera, but we're going to jump around a bit and we're going to talk to it because this is highly important. Just got to get it over here. And all right, make sure it showed up. All right, it showed up. So we're going to go to page 25 and we're going to read it from here. Let me zoom it in so y'all can see it a bit. And also let me turn on my camera order and banner. There we go. Actually, sure, we'll do it that way. Actually, take away the border. I'm not going to do that today. All right. So what do we got here? What do we have here? Well, let's start off with page 28, not 25. I apologize. All right. So Section 80 of this indictment is stating that around the same time on June 24th that Nauta has making his travel plans to go to Florida, Nauta and de Oliveira contacted Trump employee number 4, who was the director of information technology, IT, at the Mar-a-Lago club as follows. At 5:02 p.m., Nauta sent text messages to Trump employee number 4 asking, "Hey bro, you around this weekend?" At 5:05, Nauta texts de Oliveira asking, "Hey brother, you working today?" De Oliveira responded, "Yes, I just left." Nauta then called de Oliveira and they spoke for approximately 2 minutes. At 5:09 p.m., Trump employee number 4 texted a response to Nauta stating, quote, "I am local, entertaining some family that came to visit. What is up?" Nauta responded to Trump employee number 4, "Okay, good, cool. No biggie, just wanted to see if you were around. Enjoy, bro." At 6:56 p.m., de Oliveira texted Trump employee number 4 stating, quote, "Hey buddy, how are you? Walter called me early, said it was trying to get in touch with you. I guess he's coming down tomorrow. I guess you need you for something." Trump employee 4 number 4 responded, quote, "He reached out, but he didn't say what he wanted. I told him I was local, but entertaining some family that came from New York City this weekend. He told me no worries." At 6:58 p.m., Trump employee number 4 texted Nauta, "Bro, if you need me, I can get away for a few. Just let me know." Nauta responded, "Sounds good. Thank you very much." Or thank you. Now, we're going to continue on with this. We're going to read this. I know it's boring, but it's important to give it full context of what is happening here, because this is information that came out during the grand jury information and hearing, and also from text messages and that sort of thing. So this is very important, so we have to cover it. So on Saturday, June 25th, 2022, Nauta traveled from Bedminster, New Jersey to Palm Beach, Florida. Prior to Nauta's trip, De Alvera told a valet at the Mar-a-Lago Club, Trump employee number 5, that Nauta was coming down. De Alvera asked Trump employee number 5 not to tell anyone that Nauta was coming down because Nauta wanted the trip to remain secret. De Alvera also told Trump employee number 5 that Nauta wanted De Alvera to talk to Trump's employee number 4 to see how long camera footage was stored. Flippin'. All the bummer somersaults. Just flip. This is all information. Shortly after arriving in Palm Beach on the evening of June 25th, Nauta went to the Mar-a-Lago Club and met with De Alvera at 5:46 p.m. At the Mar-a-Lago Club, Nauta and De Alvera went to the security guard booth where the surveillance video is displayed on monitors, walked with a flashlight through the tunnel where the storage room was located, and observed and pointed out surveillance cameras. On Monday, June 27th of 2022, at 9:48 p.m., De Alvera walked to the IT office where Trump employee number 4 was working with another employee in the IT department. It should be remembered here that Trump employee number 4 is the director of IT. De Alvera requested that Trump employee number 4 step away from the office so De Alvera and Trump employee number 4 could talk. At 9:49 p.m., Trump employee number 4 and De Alvera left the area of the IT office together and walked through a basement tunnel. De Alvera took Trump employee number 4 to a small room known as an audio closet near the white and gold ballroom. Once inside the audio closet, De Alvera and Trump employee number 4 had the following exchange. De Alvera told Trump employee number 4 that their conversation should remain between the two of them. De Alvera asked Trump employee number 4 how many days the server retained footage. Trump employee number 4 responded that he believed it was approximately 45 days. De Alvera told Trump employee number 4 that the boss wanted the server deleted. Trump employee number 4 responded that he would not know how to do that, and that he did not believe that he would have the rights to do that. Trump employee number 4 told De Alvera that De Alvera would have to reach out to another employee who was a supervisor of security for Trump's business organization. De Alvera then insisted to Trump employee number 4 that the boss wanted the server deleted and asked, "What are we going to do?" At 10:14 a.m., De Alvera texted Nauta, who was still in Florida, "Hey buddy, are you working today?" De Alvera then called Nauta at 10:15 and they spoke for approximately a minute. Later that day at 1:06 p.m., Nauta texted De Alvera, who was at the Mar-a-Lago Club, "On my way to you." Between 1:31 p.m. and 1:50 p.m., De Alvera walked through the bushes of the northern edge of the Mar-a-Lago Club property to meet with Nauta on the adjacent property, then walked back to the IT office and he had visited that morning, and then walked right again through the bushes on the northern edge of Mar-a-Lago Club property to meet with Nauta on the adjacent property. Let's go ahead and we're getting to the meat of it now. So this is where it comes from. So in July of 2022, the FBI and grand jury obtained and reviewed surveillance video from Mar-a-Lago Club showing the movement of boxes set forth above. On August 8th of 2022, the FBI executed a court-authorized search warrant at the Mar-a-Lago Club. The search warrant authorized the FBI to search and seize, among other things, all documents with classification markings. During the execution of the warrant at Mar-a-Lago, the FBI seized 102 documents with classification markings in Trump's office and the storage room as follows. We're not going to go through all this. Just over 2 weeks after the FBI discovered classified documents in the storage room and Trump's office on August 26th of 2022, Nauta called Trump employee number 5 and said words to the effect of, quote, "Someone just wants to make sure Carlos is good." In response, Trump employee number 5 told Nauta and De Alvarez In response, Trump employee number 5 told Nauta that De Alvarez was loyal and that De Alvarez would not do anything to affect the relationship with Trump. That same day, at Nauta's request, Trump employee number 5 confirmed in a Signal chat group with Nauta and the PAC representative De Alvarez was loyal. For those who do not know, Signal is a end-to-end encrypted chat messaging program. You can do voice and video and stuff like that too. It's primarily used for text messages. It's double-sided encrypted. It does handshakes and that sort of thing, so it's not easy to break into. If they saw this information, then it was likely presented to them directly by the person, one of the people involved, in physical form with a phone. Either it was unlocked and was done that way, or the person unlocked their phone, signed into the application, and showed it to them. So probably flipped. Again, flipping, flip. Continuing on though, that same day, Trump called De Alvarez and told De Alvarez that Trump would get De Alvarez an attorney. In other words, I got you, boy. You a loyal one. All right, so let's see here. So page 46, we're going to skip now to page 46 to get the new indictment charges. And these are they are things that we kind of already know about thanks to the revelations of the grand jury, as well as to the fact that this has been not leaked to the press or by any means, but the press has been talking about it since the grand jury had happened and that sort of stuff. So they were speculated on and everything like that. So you're not going to necessarily be like, oh, this is brand new information if you've been paying close attention to it. That said, it is very much important information. We're going to go ahead and read the indictment charges around it and very much get it going there. Hey, neighbor guy, what's up? We're covering the new Trump indictments. It's called it's not supplemental. It's a superseding indictment. It's called a superseding indictment, but think of it as an indictment. In this case, an indictment that is on top of the previous indictments because of new information that was revealed during the grand jury hearings. So that is what we're doing now. All right, so let's go ahead and skip down to page, 46? So these are where the new indictments are, and they are pretty significant. We're gonna go through it real quick. What do you mean by that, neighbor guy? This is supplemental to the it's basically supplemental to the already case of what's happening in Southern District of the District of Florida for the secret docs case. Oh, already got that. All right, so let's continue on though. So the general allegations of this superseding indictment are re-alleged and fully incorporate here by reference. On May 26, 2022, Nauta participated in a voluntary interview with the FBI. During that interview, the FBI explained to Nauta that the FBI was investigating how classified documents had been kept at Mar-a-Lago Club, and that the FBI asked Nauta questions about the location and movement of Trump's boxes before Trump provided 15 boxes to NORA, the National Archives, on January 17th of 2022. Nauta was represented by counsel, and the FBI advised Nauta that the interview was voluntary and that he could leave at any time. The FBI also advised Nauta that it was a criminal offense to lie to the FBI. The interview was recorded. On or about May 26 of 2022, in Palm Beach County, in the Southern District of Florida, and elsewhere, the defendant, Waltine Nauta, in a matter within jurisdiction of the executive branch of the United States government, did knowingly and willfully make a materially false statement, fictitious and fraudulent statement, and representation that is in a voluntary interview during a federal and criminal investigation being conducted by the FBI. Nauta was asked the following questions and gave the following false answers. In other words, boy lied to the FBI. You don't do that. You don't lie to the FBI. Chances are, if the FBI asks you a question, and this has been a thing for a very long time because they're fairly good at what they do, they already know the answer to it. It's just what it is. Question: are you aware of any boxes being brought to his home? His suite? No. Obvious lie. All right, so to the best of your knowledge, you're saying that those boxes that you brought onto the truck, first time you ever laid eyes on them was just a day of when Trump employee number 2 needed you? Correct. To take them? Okay. Question: in knowing that we're trying to track the life of these boxes and where they could have been kept and stored and all kinds of stuff, do you have any information that could help us understand, like, where they were kept, how they were kept, where they were secured, where they're locked, something that makes the intelligence community feel better about these things? You know. Answer: I wish I could tell you. I don't know. I honestly just don't know. All of these are clearly lies. So let us skip down to counts 39, 40, and wait, what? Oh, there it is. Let's go ahead and skip down to count 40 because this is where it gets a bit more interesting. All right. So count 40, altering, destroying, mutilating, or concealing an object. So this is obstruction of justice charge. 18 USC code section 1512B2B2. These are what we are seeing here. This is obstruction of justice charges. And so we're going to read this now to understand what those obstruction of justice charges are exactly. So the general allegations of the superseding indictment are re-alleged and fully incorporated here by reference. From, on, or about June 22nd of 2022, though in or around August 2022, in Palm Beach County, in the Southern District of Florida, and elsewhere, the defendants, Donald Trump, Nalta, Carlos de Oliveira, did knowingly corruptly attempt to persuade another person with intent to cause and induce any person to alter, destroy, mutilate, and conceal an object with intent to impair the object's integrity and available for use in an official proceeding. That is, Trump, Nalta, and de Oliveira requested that Trump employee number 4 delete security camera footage at the Mar-a-Lago club to prevent the footage from being provided to a federal grand jury. So this is obstruction of justice through the destruction or alteration of evidence. That is what this charge is. So for count 41, this is saying that these defendants corruptly altered, destroyed, mutilated, and concealed a record document and other objects, and attempted to do so with the intent to impair the object's integrity and availability for use in an official proceeding. Yes, neighbor guy, that is oh so true. Destroying subpoenaed evidence isn't a good look. Remember, a lot of the times, it's not the crime, it's the cover-up. And here is really no different. Honestly, they could have just given the stuff back. They could have just given it back. I'm wondering who convinced Trump that it was a good idea to try to do this as some sort of means of making his base be more wedded to him so that he could potentially win another election and therefore avoid prison time. I don't know. That seems to be what's kind of going on here. It's like a masterful gambit. But he's just an idiot. He's stupid. But let's continue on. So this is again destroying evidence in section 1512C1 and 2. C1 and C2. But delete the security footage again. count 42. So this is where this is coming from. So on January 13th of 2023, De Oliveira participated in a voluntary interview with the FBI at De Oliveira's residence. During the interview, the FBI explained to De Oliveira that the FBI was investigating how classified documents had been kept at Mar-a-Lago, and the FBI asked him questions about the location and movement of Trump's boxes and other items. De Oliveira was advised by the FBI that the interview was voluntary and that he could tell the agents to leave at any time. The FBI also advised De Oliveira that it was a criminal offense to lie to the FBI. So this is all that other stuff, and this is what he's being charged with, to make materially false statements to the FBI, similar to Nauta. Basically, I'm loyal to Trump, so I'm going to lie about these boxes. That's what this charge is. So scrolling down, skipping. Oh, so that's the charges directly, but there was another charge here that I accidentally skipped. No, this is not what I want. I had somehow skipped some of this stuff. Here we go. Here it is. So here is, so those are new. Those are new. Those are new. So this is where the big stuff, in my opinion, is. So this is 94, 95. This is count 33, conspiracy to obstruct justice, where are multiple counts, and that's supplemental as well. So I accidentally skipped this, so we're going to scroll back down. This is where the rubber meets the road on this. And neighbor, I will get to you that question in a minute. So the conspiracy here is from, on, or about May 22nd, or May 11th, sorry. From or about May 11th of 2022 through in and around August of 2022 in Palm Beach and in the Southern District of Florida and elsewhere. These defendants knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree with each other and with others known and unknown to the grand jury to engage in misleading conduct toward another person and corruptly persuade another person to withhold a record document and other object from an official proceeding in violation of 18 U.S. Code 15, Section 1512 B2A, which is to corruptly persuade another person with intent to cause and induce any person to alter, destroy, mutilate, and conceal an object with intent to impair the object's integrity and availability to use in official proceeding. This is, again, the conspiracy to destroy evidence. So that is what it is. It is also, for the next section, to also destroy, mutilate, conceal a record document. So this is their attempt to keep this information from the FBI, from the grand jury, from NARA. This is them trying to move these boxes around and conspiring to move them around. I want to move it from here to here to here. So the FBI is on a wild goose chase and they are none the wiser. Right? So that's what those are. And steal record document, other objects for official proceedings. So this is also for the code here. And it should be noted that they are trying to persuade another person to withhold a document, an object from an official proceeding. This could also include the fact that they told the lawyer, yes, we have everything. Tell them we have everything. There you go. So that is what we have here. So what does this mean? Well, this means that the FBI had someone flip and gave them evidence that Trump and these two co-defendants, De Oliveira and Nauta, attempted to conceal these documents from the investigation and to conceal and destroy records of their attempt to obstruct justice. The footage that they tried to delete or remove from, destroy the server, flood the server, whatever happened, whatever they were attempting to do, showed them moving the boxes from one location to another, or at least getting them out of the area that the FBI was going to. And then God knows what else happened to them until we know that they were moved to Bedminster. That was what's going on. Now, to answer your question, neighbor guy, and I think this is important. To answer your question, why do we know what the documents are about and why he would want to keep them so badly? All right. We don't actually know the full reason. Only Trump does. That is in his head, right? But we can speculate. And I think we can speculate with some modicum of viability, of reasonability, of certainty of what they were. Trump, if nothing else, is a giant child with a big ass ego that likes to brag about everything. He brags more than a middle schooler lying about copping a feel in the gym class. Okay? He lies all the time to brag about everything. He lies about the money he made. He lies about the women he slept with. He lies about his penis size. Everything, right? He lies about everything. All right? Because he likes bragging. He likes feeling like he's got BDE, but he doesn't have BDE. Because if you have BDE, you don't go around waving it everywhere. You just exude BDE, right? So, what we know from other people talking about what Trump has done, and from eyewitness testimony and recorded surveillance footage, is that Trump simply had, look at these documents. Oh, oh man, you know what these are? You know what these are? Oh, my generals. My generals, baby. They made that plan for me, man. And that plan was to invade Iran. They did that for me. I wanted that. And they did it. And it was a beautiful, grand plan to take out Iran. I can't even tell you about it. It's still classified, right? Yeah, it's still well, I could have told you about it if it wasn't classified. I could have told you more about it, showed you everything if it wasn't classified. But, funny that. That's what it was. At the very least, if nothing else, if it's not a grand plan to get his supporters more on his side because the corrupt FBI is coming after him, you know what? The FBI fucked up. I'll say it. They fucked up. But to say that the corrupt FBI is coming for you and your children and your children's children, and if they can do this to me, they can do it to anybody. It's fucking nonsense. He could have just turned over the documents. He'd be like, "Here, sir, here are your documents. I am sorry that I kept these." And we would have been all fine. Trump would have never been charged. He wouldn't have had the rally around the flag thing that he has going on, but he wouldn't have been charged. The FBI would have chalked it up to general incompetence, and it would have been like, well, he turned him over. He didn't know he was supposed to have them. Guess we can't charge him. And that would have been it. But instead, he did all this bullshit. Because he likes to brag, at the very least. So that's why we have this. But I think we covered it sufficiently here. So just to recap, Trump has been charged with conspiracy. He has been charged with him and De Oliveira and Nalta have been charged with conspiracy and the attempt of and destruction of evidence and the conspiring to hide said evidence from an official proceeding. So again, remember, it's not necessarily the crime, it's the cover-up. But my friends, that concludes this segment of the News Roundup. Oh, I want to get that in there because I just saw your comment. Haha, you wouldn't know my girlfriend. She goes to another school. So true, fam. She's in Canada. She's gorgeous, but you don't know her. So, yes, too true. Too true. All right. So that does conclude that. Now, if you're just now joining us, or you came in halfway through, this is the Crowdsourced Politics News Roundup. We do this every Thursday, unless stated otherwise, from roughly 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to roughly 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, covering the news that was with the kind of analysis only the crowd can provide. We're doing that today. We do that every Thursday. If that's something you want to see, you want to tune into, come here onto this channel, YouTube, Twitch, wherever, and you can join us on there. We have other programs. We are trying to do Cypher State again, which is a foreign affairs and foreign policy focused podcast. And we are also doing the debate circuit. I was invited to do modern day debates this past Monday, but I had to turn it down because I had to take my wife to the airport. So I could not participate, or this past Sunday rather, could not participate in that because she is gone. My baby's gone. She is in currently London, hanging out with her friend and having a good time on her own, which I did similarly earlier this year when I went to Scotland. So saved a lot of money for it. It's a good time. So she's able to do it. It's good. So yeah, so I wasn't able to say that, but we're doing that a lot more often. So if you want to see me on there, you can, you know what, just hit me up on the Discord. Hit me up on Discord. It's the easiest way to do it. And then, and then please smash that like button for the algorithms. It really does help us out. And if you do it, we also are on Mastodon at csp@federated.press. So those are the ways you can get a hold of us. Please. And thank you. So let us go now into everybody, some congressional politics. And we're going to talk now about calls for impeachment of Biden gaining steam among Republicans. And also some criticism gaining steam. Let's talk about that. So Axios reported that House Speaker Kevin McCarthy indicated more than once this week that opening an impeachment inquiry into President Biden might be imminent. But moderate and swing district House Republicans are openly worrying about political backlash that could result from a half-baked impeachment effort against President Biden. McCarthy said on Monday on Fox News that the House investigations into Biden's family members' business dealings are, quote, rising to the level of impeachment inquiry. But in a closed-door GOP conference meeting yesterday, he warned his members not to overstate the case for impeachment. Talking out of both sides of your mouth here, McCarthy. I get it. You gotta please the base, and you gotta please the people that are actually gonna vote for your candidates. Oh no, my screens. 1 second. Oh, come on. Where's it at? It's this one. Oh, a giant fucking My bad. What's going on? All right. Where was I? Yes. McCarthy cautioned members to let investigations run their course, according to multiple members in the room. Quote, I think there's a confusion about the process, Republican representative of Arkansas, French Hills, told. Sorry. Quote, I think there's confusion about the process. I need to get a clean cut for this for the segment. So I'm going to repeat this. I am sorry. But yeah, we know what's good. We know what's good. All right. I think there's confusion. All right, I'm just going to start over. The speaker cautioned members to let the investigations run their course, according to multiple members in the room. Quote, I think there's confusion about the process, Republican representative of Arkansas, French Hill, told Axios. That speaker wants to, quote, follow the evidence in a methodical way. Representative Mike Lawler, Republican of New York, one of the most vulnerable House Republicans, said that, quote, the question for me right now is the investigations, are they producing enough facts and evidence that warrant taking it to the next step? Others echoed McCarthy in downplaying the significance of an impeachment inquiry. Quote, it's just using our gavels to make sure we're identifying the facts, said Representative Blake Moore, Republican of Utah and the vice chair of the moderate Republican governance group. Continuing on, he stated, quote, I think there's a sincere effort from leadership not to sensationalize it. But further right members have put considerable pressure on McCarthy to accelerate the impeachment process. Representative Kevin Hern, a Republican from Oklahoma, who is the chair of the Republican Study Committee, said there is overwhelming consensus around voting to launch an impeachment inquiry. A swing district Republican, speaking on the condition of anonymity, said impeachment is not good for their reelection and makes us in swing districts nervous. Quote, impeachment, even talking about it, is not something that we're looking forward to, the member said. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer talked to reporters later last week about the perspective, which offered a peek behind a partisan curtain. Raw Story specifically asked the Kentucky Republican whether Capitol Hill will start to devolve into nonstop impeachments when competing parties control the House and the White House. According to MSNBC's Maddow blog, the GOP committee chairman replied saying the quiet part out loud. Congress has arrived at this point, he said, because the Democrats use their impeachment power. In other words, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We're in a tit for tat situation here, and no one's going to let up. They're not going to let up. They have no incentive to let up. Their base doesn't want them to let up. And so we're just in this spiral of increasing partisanship. All because Republicans, rightly or wrongly, think Democrats impeach Trump simply because of partisanship. Because, disagreements about uses of executive power are things that happen all the time. But at the same time, not every disagreement about uses of executive power are done to benefit a political campaign or a future political campaign. And find me the evidence, or you don't get the money, is, in their mind, similar to what Biden did. In their mind, mind you. I don't believe it was whatsoever, but that's how they look at it. So, they are going for tit for tat. Because, again, if it's just partisan, why not do it? And you know who's to blame for some of that? People like me. I'm going to say it. I'm going to eat crow on this one. Me saying that it is a political process, that impeachment is a political process, not a legal one, gave them ammunition to do this stuff. We, people like me that made these comments, were not, what's a good word for it? We were not careful enough in the usage of our words to make it clear what we meant by that. We didn't mean that this is purely political. We simply meant that it doesn't require the breaking of a law, but the appearance of impropriety and not maladministration, but corruption that isn't necessarily illegal can raise to the bar of impeachment. This is played out in the Federalist Papers, and it's not maladministration, which just means doing the job badly, but an abuse of power, which is why high crimes and misdemeanors was used rather than just crimes. high crimes and misdemeanors at the time that that phrase was used during the writing of the Constitution meant things such as abuses of power. And it was basically, we can't make an exhaustive list of all the things that are improper for a president to do, but we need to have an encompassing thing. So that's where it was. But because we were not clear in that, and I take responsibility in this, we're seeing some of that play out now. Continuing on, Comer's right that Democrats, as I was just saying, use their impeachment power, but they also caught Trump committing high crimes, as we said. There was evidence of wrongdoing, which led to congressional action. In contrast, Comer and his GOP cohorts have failed to produce any incriminating evidence against Biden. There is a lot of smoke, but that doesn't mean there's fire. There is the appearance of impropriety, but not during the time that Biden was in presidency. Those are the differences. The crimes, and according to high crimes and misdemeanors and other things, when Congress tried to expel a member before, I think it was 1920-ish? I think it was in 1920s. I think it was around there. Don't quote me on the year, but this happened. The Congress tried to expel a member for conduct done while not in their current position in office. And the Supreme Court ruled that no, it has to be conduct that they did while in office, because, you know, it's not that you get a clean slate. It's that this impeachment, this removal process is designed to hold members accountable who abuse power or do something else corrupt while in office. So there's the difference there. I don't believe that Biden is implicated still, even with all the evidence, quote unquote, that has come out, because it's shaky. The evidence is very shaky. It's a lot of, oh, he was on the phone with this guy. Okay. And he took a call from his son. He took a call from his son that it was a known drug addict and needed help. What are you going to do? Like, you think he's not going to answer the phone call from his son that's been in trouble a lot? It's going through some shit. I don't know. It could, again, there are issues surrounding Hunter Biden for sure, but that doesn't necessarily implicate Joe Biden. So we'll just leave it at that. Continuing on though, Huffington Post reported today on a memo released by the White House arguing that Republicans' attack against Biden are disjointed and a clown carousel. We got a clown car, guys. Get in. The memo is titled "The Message Behind Republicans' Haphazard Non-Message. They Can't Beat Bidenomics." Oh, Bidenomics, okay. It reflects the Biden's argument that GOP is stepping up attacks on Hunter Biden and floating talk of impeachment because the economy is getting stronger, making it less effective avenue for an attack. The memo mocked Republicans for appearing to not have any idea of the charges they are seeking to level against Biden. Quote, "Now House Republicans are channeling their frustrated energy into a measured and purposeful urge to impeach someone, somewhere, or something." End quote. So that is where we're at here with the Biden impeachment process. If evidence does come out that Biden, while in office, did something improper, we're going to have to talk about it. Right now, we do not have that evidence. We have a lot of conjecture. Even their star witness that is supposed to testify soon, if he didn't already, I don't really watch congressional testimony, to be honest with you, especially if it's partisan. Partisan congressional testimony, when it's being driven by a purely partisan narrative where two sides are like competing narratives, it's just a lot of grandstanding. I'm more interested in when there's consensus and they're trying to seek the truth. Otherwise, it's just watching 4 hours of rhetoric while 20 people try to get their dunks in. And it's just too much time spent just to look for dunks. I will read testimony. I can skim that. I might watch some important testimony on like 1.5 speed, but I'm not going to watch every single fucking hearing for 4 hours. I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. Call me a know nothing shill for the Democrats, whatever. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. I've sat through too many wasted hours on congressional testimony where nothing was revealed. It's just what it is. So will watch certain aspects of testimony for certain people, but not the whole hearing. So yeah, I will be watching the hearing with the IRS agents. I think that one's important. I think that one actually doesn't necessarily reveal anything improper with the DOJ. I have watched counterpoints, ruminate or pondering politics, Rob Noor and Peace Co's debate on that, and I found that to be pretty revealing. Peace Co and Rob Noor know a lot of the details of these things. Whether or not you agree with, like, they're on opposite ends, right? They're on opposite ends. So it's a good thing to watch. I actually recommend watching that. But I'm gonna watch the actual testimony of the agents, because I think it's gonna show how the difference, at least speaking, the difference between what a investigator would have liked to have charged and what a district attorney would actually charge. And I also don't think that there is I don't believe Jim Jordan's narrative that Weiss is playing fast and loose with his authority. I don't think he was smacked down on that, and I think that was evident based on the fact that the Hunter Biden plea deal did that collapse? Well, it wasn't agreed to at the time that it was supposed to be agreed to, which we'll talk about later in the program. So that's where we are with that. But with that concludes this segment of the News Roundup. All right. Long day today. Everybody still good? All right. Let us continue then. Let us continue with some more news. All right, let's talk now about some spending bills in the culture war, which is becoming a never-ending saga of just pure partisan fuckery. Let's get into it. So, a Republican-backed spending bill threatens to end national access to mail-order abortion pills and cut billions from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, that provides low-income families with food benefits. The legislation is part of a spate of appropriation bills that lawmakers will debate this month, according to reporting from The Guardian. The Food and Agriculture Spending Bill is the latest from the Food and Agricultural Spending Bill is the latest front in the right-wing campaign against reproductive rights. You would think that it wouldn't be, but it is. Specifically, the bill would reverse a 2021 Food and Drug Administration policy that allowed people to get the abortion-inducing drug mifepristone through the mail. House Republicans, messaging on the bill, claim that the provisions reins in wasteful Washington spending and protects the lives of unborn children. The bill would also decrease the SNAP benefits program, formerly known as food stamps, by $32 billion compared with the 2023 levels. It should be noted here that for every dollar spent in SNAP benefits, so every dollar that goes out, $1.75 of economic activity is created. And this should be intuitive. This should just make sense to people. The reason that I say that is because if a person is hungry, they are not able to be productive members of society if they are starving. And food stamps, SNAP program, SNAP benefits, do work to reduce that. They also have a cascading effect. You give somebody $1, they spend it, and that generates economic activity through the entire food supply chain. So it's just cascades. It's not free like infinite money trick. It's not how it works. Because it's not like suddenly there's $1.75 that just exists now. But there is that much that happens for the economic output from it. So it is very good. It is a force multiplier in the economy. And removing billions of dollars from it is just removing all that from the economy, which is stupid. It'll help slow down the economy, which in a bad way, in a way that we do not want. But continuing on, several Republicans have spoken out against the bill, including New York Representative Mark Moriano, who told Politico he will vote against the legislation if it comes to the floor. Moriano's opposition to the bill highlights a rift within the Republican Party over just how far to push the right's anti-abortion agenda. Their position on reproductive rights has proven nationally unpopular and contributed to electoral losses in many states in the 2022 cycle. And breaking late this afternoon from Politico, House Republican leaders punted a second government funding bill and dismissed lawmakers a day early for a 6-week break from Washington. They were hamstrung by right-wing demands for more spending cuts and internal division over social issues. What we just talked about. Quote, votes are no longer expected in the House tomorrow, House Majority Leader Stephen Scalise, Republican of Louisiana, said on the floor, announcing one final vote series Thursday afternoon. Then we will be finished for August work, period. The House's decision to adjourn for 6 weeks. The House's decision to adjourn for a 6-week break amid the GOP stalemate sets up a rocky September, when lawmakers will return to the Hill with just 3 weeks left to starve off a government shutdown. Speaker Kevin McCarthy's leadership team had hoped to pass as many of their 12 annual funding bills as possible on the floor this month. He was aiming for a show of Republican unity that might bolster the House in a coming standoff with the Senate over federal funding. But now, House GOP lawmakers are leaving the Capitol on a note of disarray rather than cohesion. In a 219 to 211 vote, the House passed only Republican funding measure that the GOP leaders could build support around before the break. The bill that funds the Department of Veterans Affairs and military construction projects. I'm surprised that one even passed because there's been a lot of issues surrounding the national authorization, the NAA, funding it because of trans military members. And oh my God, they're going to send people to other states to get health care. Abortions, to be clear, but abortions are health care. But, you know, they couldn't come together on anything but funding the Department of Veteran Affairs. My God. That is why this super thin GOP majority is shaping up to just be bad for them. They won the House, right? But they didn't win the war. If anything, their win made things a lot more difficult for them. And we're seeing that play out in real time. Now, Republican leaders persuaded members of the House Freedom Caucus to back that bill while negotiations toward a broader funding agreement remain unresolved. In short, the perennial hitch for McCarthy's 5-seat majority came back into play. Pacifying some lawmakers on the right risk losing the support of others. And that is what we have here. Now, we also have a little news bite that we have to talk about here. Because what we have here, my friends, is that we talked about it a little bit. There are some Republicans that are gearing up for a fight for federal funding, the federal government, for the 2024 fiscal year. So if you don't know, the government's fiscal year is from October to October. So we're currently in funding for the 2023 fiscal year. When it hits October 1st, funding for the government is set to expire, and therefore it is, or appropriations funding, etc. Therefore, it is gearing up for another government shutdown. And that means there are some members that are saying the quiet part out loud. Like this guy, Representative Andy Biggs, Republican from Arizona's 5th District. Let's listen to what he says here now. And it's what you expect.
Bob, did you want to answer?
I would add to that, we should...
Let me go ahead and also let me turn on my border, and there we go. All right, let's listen to him speak now.
Bob, did you want to answer?
I would add to that, we should not fear a government shutdown. Most of what we do up here is bad anyway. Most of what we do up here hurts the American people. When we do stuff to the American people while promising to do things for the American people, essential operations continue. 85%, as Mr. Biggs has just given me that number, continues. Most of the American people won't even miss if the government is shut down temporarily. But
Bob, did you want to answer?
I would add to
Okay, let's talk about this. All right, because he's not entirely wrong. I've talked about this extensively on this program. We're going to talk about why he's not entirely wrong. So first up, there are mandatory report to work duties that the federal government does. This is for anybody in law enforcement and the military. There is mandatory spending that is already geared into the federal government, that are not discretionary spending, that are not part of the government fund bill, which are things such as Social Security, disability, Medicare, and Medicaid, which is what touches most people's lives. That is going to continue, and those checks will continue to go out. The IRS, I believe, is shut down. Yeah, the IRS is shut down. The halls of Congress are shut down, so you can't do any tours. National parks are shut down, so you can't do any tours. Museums, monuments, etc. They're all closed to the public during a shutdown because they don't have the staff for those things. But all things considered, what touches most people's lives that the government does on a day-to-day that people are actually aware of are those things. Now, we can talk about the CDC and whether or not that's funded and that continues on. In the emergency, it would be. I don't necessarily know if it would continue to be funded or continue to function absent this. Government collecting data in order to better itself and the American people, that shuts down. All the things that people are not aware of that the government does. Because one of the things the government does a lot and does it well is the collecting of data, processing of that data, and telling people how the world is operating and functioning and how the economy is going and functioning, etc. Right? That's what government does. Government informs. It's one of its bigger jobs is to inform things. Regulations, those get shut down. Regulators go off the job, except for I think some very critical infrastructure. So I think some of the oil well inspections might continue, but don't quote me on that one because I'm not 100% sure. I think it is, but because I'm a little 50-50 on that one, don't quote me on that one. So that means that the Republicans 100% believe that people won't notice. They're probably right on that. And because the things that do not continue, such as regulations and that sort of thing, are things they don't want to have exist anyways, they're just like, eh. Now, there is a little bit of a monkey wrench in here, and that is with paychecks. So, when the government shuts down, even if people have to show up to work because they mandatory have to show up to work. It's part of their job. They have to show up. They have to be in the office on the job or whatever because they're one of those non-exempt or employees, they're mandatory report employees, regardless of if there's funding or not, is that they don't get paid. That includes the military. So military members do not get paid during a government shutdown. With that said, in prior government shutdowns, the Congress passed a funding bill separate from the general funding bill of the government to ensure that they would get paid. It was basically a continuing resolution to ensure military members got paid. It's like a 2 or 3 sentence bill. It was like, we assert that the spending for the government for spending on military service personnel that pays out their pay shall continue on the level of last year's. Boom. Then it gets funded, right? So the Federal Reserve, or not the Federal Reserve, the Treasury, if it needs to borrow money, can still borrow money to fund those things, and those paychecks will still go out. That is a recent development, though, because they tried to use the military's lack of payment to leverage the military's grievance with not being paid against the government and get people on their side. It didn't work. So that's why they exempt them. And also, if you're not paying your military people and they're not at war, right, and they're sitting at home not being paid and they have access to guns, it could be a problem. Now, in past government shutdowns where the government did not ensure that it would get paid, what happened is that banks basically took up that mantle. After every single government shutdown that has existed, the government basically backdated everybody's paychecks, and they just got sent all the money at once for it. Or in some instances, I think not everybody got that, but I think most people did, would get fully funded. The ones that worked, that's that it says. So the government employees that were mandated to work got paid for the work they did. The ones that didn't work were furloughed and would have to get unemployment for that compensation. They wouldn't be paid during that. Unless specifically stated in the funding bill that, yeah, we made you not get paid, so you're going to get paid even though you didn't work. So the banks would cover that money. And so the banks covered, I think, yeah, the government shut down while I was in the military. It happened between pay periods. And so because I banked with USAA and they know that the government was going to fund it eventually, they just gave me my money, which is nice. So that's what it is. But yeah, that's what we're seeing here. So they're going to be honest about it because there's no reason for them to be, but it's up to you and I to tell them why this is fucked up. So please do that. Write your congressman, especially if they're a Republican, that you are appalled that they would not fund the federal government. Or rather, not especially if you're a Republican. You might not care if you're a Republican. You might be on their side. You're like, yeah, fuck the government, man. Fuck those government workers. They shouldn't have that job anyways, unproductive assholes, or whatever. Right? But if you're not like that, if you don't agree with that, and your representative is Republican, please reach out. Please write your congressman. Tell them that you don't like this. It will have a modicum of impact. Especially if they get deluged. It might have a modicum of impact. Could help things go a bit more smoothly. Also, one thing to note is that a government shutdown does slow down the economy. So mention that, because payments stop going out. That is an instant contraction of the government of spending. That is an instant contraction of money velocity. And therefore, less money circulating in the economy means less jobs, means less growth, etc., etc., etc. Doesn't necessarily trigger a recession, but it does help contribute. So yeah, please contact your congressman. But with that, that concludes this segment of the News Roundup. All right. There is a lot here, man. There's a lot here. All right. All right. We have more coming out of Congress here. So let's get into it. So we have an emergence of the 20. What is that? Let's get into it. The far-right Freedom Caucus is facing an identity crisis and the rise of a rival group that seeks to claim its mantle. The New York Times reported on Tuesday. Quote, as the Republican Party has moved further to the right, the fringe has become the mainstream, swelling the ranks of the Freedom Caucus, but making it difficult for the group to stay aligned on policy and strategy. To further complicate matters, quote, the rise of another hard-right faction in the House calling itself the 20 has raised questions in recent months about where the real power lies on the far right. The 20 consist of The 20 consist of members including Florida Republican Matt Gaetz. It's a group of 20 populist members that has in recent months become the more disruptive threat to McCarthy's control of the House. Due to its size, the group considers itself more efficient and better able to wage fights against the establishment. Part of the split is fallout over the debt ceiling negotiations earlier this year, which enraged far-right lawmakers because McCarthy accepted minimal concessions from Biden in order to prevent an economic catastrophe. This is big. So let's see. Why does 20-member House caucus have power? Because the majority's numbers are so narrow. They only have the majority by a handful of votes, handful of people. That means if any faction breaks away from the majority to set up its own rough and tumble group of weirdos, well, they have a lot of power if they stay united, stay together. Synergy. All right. Now, that's what we're seeing here. And we're seeing these 20 people come up because these are the same people, the populist, that have been causing McCarthy such headaches since even before he was voted in. He was not voted in until these guys got on board, and they only got on board with the concessions that he made to them. And if they stay united, those concessions give them more power to get more concessions. That's how narrow it is. Now, if McCarthy cared about governing, if he cared about looking good, if he cared about, I don't know, anything that wasn't just power. No, I don't even know if, it's not power. He cares about power. He obviously cares about power. He made a lot of concessions to get the gavel, right? He wanted to be House Speaker. He wanted it. He desired becoming House Speaker. But if he cared more than just that, it's possible that he could make a masterful gambit with moderate Democrats in the House to form another faction and as a buttress to McCarthy. But that's hard to do. It's hard to do in this. But he hasn't attempted. Hasn't been done. So that's what we're seeing here. And because this faction is the way it is, you're just going to see more culture stuff come up in it. You're going to see more infighting between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. You're going to see more headbutting within the Republican conference because of this. And it's good for us. By us, I mean, the lib-left coalition that doesn't like to see Republicans succeed in passing their agenda, especially if that agenda is so far to the right as these 20 members are trying to make it. But it's not necessarily good for the country in terms of stability and prosperity. So you don't want to you want to see those 20 people lose, but you don't want to see those 20 people lose in such a way that is catastrophic, which is why the debt ceiling being passed was a very good thing, even though Biden had to give up some stuff that people were very upset about, especially if you're on the more progressive lefty side of the House. I think some of those concessions were window dressing, delaying full funding of the IRS by a year isn't really that big of a deal necessarily. Turning that into a 2024 election issue, I don't think actually helps Republicans that much as people think it does, because wealthy liberals are okay with taxes being raised. To an extent, especially on bigger businesses and the like, and populist Republicans, they can be ginned up to hate the IRS because they're going to come for you. But they also want the IRS to go after tax cheats. Like, they want the IRS to go after corporate dickbags because they don't like corporations. They don't like the establishment. So if the establishment's fighting itself, that's good for them. So I think that's what we have. But with that concludes this segment of the news roundup. Hey, AC, Arm Chalet. Appreciate you. Yeah, we're doing good here today. Just covering some of the news like we usually do on a Thursday. Glad you could join us. All right. But let's continue on with the news roundup. And now we have aliens. We're going to talk about the aliens. What happened? All right, let's get into it. So the House held hearings this week that could have been an episode of The X-Files. I want to believe. We're talking about the presence of aliens, or non-human, beings on Earth. We used to call them unidentified flying objects. Today, they're referred to as unidentified anomalous phenomena. Though some Republican members implied that the Biden administration was withholding information about UAPs that threaten national security, thus hearing lacked the vitriol we've become accustomed to seeing from the House. What the fuck? This is weirdly weird. Though some Republicans implied that the Biden administration was withholding information about UAPs that threaten national security, most of them did not. Thus, the hearing lacked the vitriol we've become accustomed to seeing from the House committees. Former Air Force intelligence officer David Grush said, quote, non-humans, biologics, came with some alleged craft recoveries in response to questions from Republican Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina. We will turn over to that hearing now via C-SPAN.
You've stated that the government is in possession of potentially non-human spacecraft. Based on your experience and extensive conversation...
Hold up, we're going to restart that because that CC is very not where it should be.
You've stated that the government is in possession of potentially non-human spacecraft.
I can't move it? All right. Let's just turn that off because that's annoying.
You've stated that the government is in possession of potentially non-human spacecraft. Based on your experience and extensive conversations with experts, do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public.
Okay, I can't ask when you think this occurred. If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary ever?
So he's basically saying Roswell happened. That's what it sounds like to me. This is wouldn't even say conspiracy necessarily. It is a conspiracy theory, but it's one that isn't like damning to the United States or government or cover-ups and all that jazz. Although, you know, covering it up would have happened with this. But it's very interesting that he's being like, yeah, there was an unidentified anomalous project, whatever the fuck, what was it called? Hold on, because we don't call them UFOs anymore. So unidentified, we don't call them UFOs, unidentified objects. We call them unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Probably because they don't think that they're flying anymore, hovering, gravity, whatever. But whatever you want to call it, right? These UAPs that they had bodies in them and they weren't human. So maybe they were extra dimensional beings. You know, so that conspiracy, that one's fun. There's two versions of the extra dimensional beings that come from the fifth dimension. Ooh. But there's two theories behind this. One is that these beings are from a dimension that we cannot see. It's not within, it's outside of space time visibility. You know, up, down, left, right, 3 dimensions, all that stuff. and that they come from that, and so they're from a source we can't see, but they pierce through the dimensional barrier, and they're able to see us, and we were able to see them a couple of times. Or time travelers from the future. So those are the two ones from the fifth dimension things. They're called, so Grip Gambler asked why not the sixth dimension? Because we know of 4 dimensions, 3-dimensional, so we're in here, and then, so, plane, space, whatever, and then time and space, that we experience ourselves. And so outside of those things that we experience, that would be the 5th dimension. That's why. Think metaverse, think multiverse, but instead of multiverse, it's an extra plane of existence that we don't actually interact with, and so it's beyond our scope with that. But there's only like 10 more seconds here, so let's go ahead and let him finish.
For instance, video, photos.
I'm going to go ahead and rewind this.
Eyewitness.
Human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, this video, photos, eyewitness?
Roswell.
Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to talk to you in a skiff about.
Oh, a skiff. All right, cool. Well, that's fun. Harry Reid, everybody was trying to get this information out. This has been information that has been being looked at from the government, by the government, different aspects of the government for some time. Harry Reid is actually a big REID UFOs. Yeah, Harry Reid, ex-Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. Yeah, this is thing. So go ahead and go over to this. The Guardian. This is published. This is from 2 years ago. Former senator from Nevada has long been fascinated by UFOs and has been increasingly vocal on the subject since retiring. This is again from 2 years, more than 2 years ago. This is from 2021. So former former U.S. Senator, Majority Leader Harry Reid has been retired from Congress, but still has ideas on how lawmakers should study unidentified flying objects. A report detailed U.S. military encounters with UFOs requested by the Senate Intelligence Committee is due to be released in June. So this has been going on for some time. And another interesting thing about the UFO stuff is that one of the members from Blink 182 UFO Believer, did a huge documentary. Tom DeLonge, the singer, one of the singers from that, is actually a big UFO conspiracy fan. And let me see if I can get a better article here. And actually developed several documentaries talking about all the noticed and information that we had at the time that those documentaries were created, and why the government might have been involved in a cover-up and that sort of thing like that. So very interesting stuff there. I thought that was a fun little tidbit to talk about here, because not a lot of people know about that he's been very, very much wedded in this thing. And I think he actually worked with Reid on it. I think he interviewed Harry Reid in one of those documentaries, but it's very, very interesting stuff. I found out about his connection to UFO conspiracy theories and things like that through a Facebook friend. So that was fun. But that concludes this segment of the News Roundup. All right. So let's continue on now. We're going to move on. Jesus Christ, there's so much to cover here. My God. It did take us a bit to get started, so we started about 10 minutes late, and reading all those information from the indictment, the updated indictment on Trump, did have a lot to do with it. So let's go. Okay, let's talk about Harry. Let's talk about the current Senate Majority Leader. For people that don't know, McConnell had a brain reset the other day. So let's talk about it. While at a presser yesterday, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell stopped speaking mid-sentence and appeared to blank out. We're going to move over to that video now. Oh, wait, this is too low. Oh, damn, it's just coming through. It seems like this audio is just coming through my left ear, so it's probably really low for y'all. Although, Make sure it's not my headset. I don't think it is. So, one way to find out. Close your ears, everybody. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do it. But let's just go ahead and let it go.
Ours information and a string of
There he goes. Oh man, you can see it in his eyes. He's like, they're darting a little bit, doing this little thing. Like he can't think. He's having issue. My God, dude. Gripper. Grip gambler. What the fuck? He went back to World War I in the middle of a brief. Bro. Why? Why you do that man like that? Holy shit. But his staffers are coming over and asking him if he's okay. It's like, nope, I gotta go. Let's do this. Please help me, basically. Escape. So yeah. Not a staffer, but
ours information.
let me go take care of my dogs. All right, where was I? Oh, yes. I was saying that McConnell had a brain reset there. And so that's what happened with that. So here is this next clip, actually. Let me go just back to this. Now, this next clip here is McConnell returning to the podium. Notice he has his left hand in his pocket, and there's a pronounced limp in his gait. So something happened for sure. All right. So let's continue on with this. So it was subsequently reported by Salon that the 81-year-old senator had tripped and fallen while exiting a plane at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport earlier this month. He was not seriously hurt, and the previously unreported fall occurred on July 14th after a flight was canceled with passengers on board. As precaution, the Kentucky Republican has also been using a wheelchair to navigate busy airports, a source familiar with his practices told the outlet. McConnell, a polio survivor, with a history of difficult maneuvering on stairs and other obstacles, previously sustained a concussion and cracked ribs after a fall in Washington earlier this year. He spent 6 weeks recovering from that fall. He also fractured a shoulder in a 2019 fall in Kentucky, which required surgery. McConnell, however, assured reporters that he is fine after that incident. Quote, "The president called to check on me. I told him I got a sandbagged." Quote, "The president called to check on me. I told him I got sandbagged." McConnell joked to the reporters, referencing President Joe Biden's explanation for his fall last month. So, yeah, this is just what happens to old people, folks. There is nothing like super serious about what is going on with McConnell. I mean, it is. He's 81 years old. There's anything that happens to an 81-year-old is going to be serious if it's medical related, right? But it's not anything serious out of the ordinary with people that are just old. There's no reason to believe this is anything other than just old age. So that's what we're seeing here. This is partly why people are like, he should retire, because one, he's been holding on to power for far too long. But the other reason, and probably the more important one here, is because it's just not good to be 81 years old and frail and moving about the country at breakneck speeds and dealing with all this stuff, you should kind of just be resting up, bro. Spend time with your grandkids. It'll do you better, kind of thing. So, but we hope that McConnell has a speedy recovery and nothing seriously happened to him, because even though if we don't like the man, I don't want anybody to suffer unnecessarily, right? I mean, old age is going to be right? To live is to suffer, right? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I don't want him to like be just in pain all the time and like suffering from hemorrhages or whatever the fuck else is going on with him, just because I don't like him, because I think that he is a bad person. I don't wish that on people. That's not cool. But so we hope that he recovers and he is in as good a health as an 81-year-old with his problems can be. But that concludes that segment of the Roundup. All right. Let's see. All right, let's break through some of this stuff, and we're just going to continue all this in one giant segment for the rest of it. So we're going to talk about the Senate addressing AI, the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, and the bipartisan bill on drug manufacturing. So we're going to get through all this in quick succession. So Reuters reported today that U.S. senators, alarmed by the malevolent potential of artificial intelligence, ooh, scary, will summon developers, executives, and experts for hearings later this year on possible legislative safeguards. Lawmakers around the world began considering how to mitigate the dangers of AI to national security and the economy after generative AI, which uses data to create a new content like ChatGPT, made headlines by answering even complex queries with human-sounding prose. Schumer said senators were briefed on AI yesterday by experts at the U.S. Energy Department, the National Science Foundation, and the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, or DARPA, which had laid the groundwork for the internet itself. The Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee voted today to send to the full Senate a bill that would put a chief AI officer into each federal agency. Good. A little late, though, in my opinion. But it's better to have it now than never. The legislation would also create a council for these AI officers to coordinate how the federal government uses this emerging technology. As you may be aware, we are currently developing an AI episode that will go over a lot of this in detail. It should be still produced by this weekend, by the end of this weekend, assuming I don't get pulled away for family issues or what have you. I'm going to be sitting down Saturday and Sunday to do a lot of work on it. So that is where my head is at for this. So we're still hopefully get that done by the end of the month. But with that said, just to put a little pin on it for now, AI right now isn't nefarious, at least not in the way that a lot of people are thinking. It has biases in the way that it's trained and the data it intakes in order to produce what it produces. It's not thinking. It's not sentient. It does not do creative works extremely well. It doesn't do them extremely well. It does them well enough. And we're going to talk a lot about that in that video. So stay tuned to that. Now, continuing on, though, we're going to talk about the NDAA. Sorry. Okay. We're going to talk about the NDAA. So according to reporting from the Dallas Morning News, the U.S. Senate voted today to require American companies to report investments in Chinese technologies, such as artificial intelligence and quantum information science. The Outbound Investment Transparency Act covers investment in advanced semiconductors and microelectronics, hypersonics, and satellite-based communications. The measure, co-authored by Republican Texas Senator John Cornyn and Senator Bob Casey, a Pennsylvania Democrat, reflects concerns that have grown for years about Chinese business practices and the implications for U.S. national security. The reporting requirement now becomes part of the must-pass defense authorization bill or the NDAA. And finally, information about drug manufacturing. A bipartisan group of senators introduced a bill that focuses on strengthening the pharmaceutical supply chain with stockpiles through increased drug manufacturing in the U.S. and allied countries. The legislation was drafted in response to a report published in March that found more than 295 medications are in short supply nationwide, per reporting from NBC News. The bill would increase the stock of medications by requiring the Department of Health and Human Services to award contracts for generic drug manufacturing to U.S.-based companies or members of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. In other words, the West and the United States. Not all of the West, but most of the West. Contract recipients would be required to bolster production capacity and maintain sufficient drug reserves. The March report on drug supplies, which was prepared by the Senate Homeland Security Committee, said the U.S. has been dealing with a worsening drug shortage for more than a decade. The shortage affects a variety of medications, including antibiotics and treatments for asthma and cancer. A lot of this is because America is getting older and older people require more drugs, and other parts of it is because drug manufacturing within the United States and the Western world shipped a lot of it to Southeast Asia, particularly China, Vietnam, and India. So those countries specifically. And when the supply chain broke down, all that just-in-time supply issues came to the forefront with COVID, and it exposed the rot that exists in the supply chain. So what we're seeing here is not just medications having to do with manufacturing medications in the United States and other Western countries, but a lot of things that are necessary for general life and national security. So medications, computer chips, critical manufacturing of medical equipment, etc. Like a lot of that stuff is being brought back into the US through these kind of subsidies in order to encourage local development of those things, which will increase jobs, but also increase the ability for us to manufacture it ourselves. So if there is a crisis, whether man-made, such as a war, or nature, such as COVID, we have the ability to meet our needs. So that's what we're seeing here. We're finally seeing that people are like, wait, this kind of level of globalization where we just ship all the jobs and all the bullshit manufacturing overseas, they can do it at $1, 90% cheaper because they don't follow environmental regulations or whatever. It's actually bad. We're finally seeing that it's actually bad. People are actually agreeing it's bad. And that's what we're going at. But that, my friends, concludes that segment of the News Roundup. All right. Next up, we are going to move on to the executive Biden, specifically the Biden administration and immigration. So we're going to have two parts of this immigration segment talking about Biden and what is going on with immigration. So first up, we have a federal judge that has ruled against Biden on immigration. What is that about? Let's get into it. So a federal judge on Tuesday struck down the Biden administration's temporary restrictions on migrants seeking asylum. The court said that the government's plan to reduce illegal crossings on the U.S.-Mexico border violated federal law. Per reporting from the Washington Post, U.S. District Judge John S. Tiger said that in his ruling that the Biden administration temporary asylum restrictions were both substantively and procedurally invalid. Border apprehensions dropped to 99,545 in June, the first full month the restrictions were in effect. That represented a nearly 42% decline from the month before, and the lowest month tally since Biden took office. Something might have been working there. Now, Tiger said the Biden administration cannot declare migrants ineligible for asylum if they cross the border illegally, because federal law says it doesn't matter how they entered the country if they say they are fleeing persecution. He said the U.S. government also cannot compel migrants to seek asylum in countries that lack robust asylum systems or are unsafe. This is a lot of liberals, a lot of lefties, a lot of open border peoples, that includes some libertarians, that includes most lefties, are are saying that this is like Trump policy 2.0, remain in Mexico kind of thing. First, Trump tried to do first country of safe harbor or something like that, where the country that they first went into, they have to apply for asylum and get denied from that country before moving on to the next. And each country that they step through, they would have to apply for asylum in that country. And if they failed to do so, well, they wouldn't be able to do it in the United States. That is not how the asylum system works. That is not how the law is designed. Ergo, Biden can't circumvent that law, even if Republicans want him to, even if some liberals want him to, even if that makes sense to people, even if it is what the European Union is doing. It is against U.S. law to do so, according to this judge, and I actually agree with the judge. That is how the law is set up. The law does not require asylum seekers to cross at port of entry or to establish processes in other countries to get asylum. We talked about this pretty extensively with our friend Nate Dallin, who is an immigration lawyer, and this is pretty bad. You gotta change the law. This is why comprehensive immigration reform is necessary to do these things. Absent those changes in the law itself, a lot of immigration rights lawyers and people that are for open borders, actual open borders, not what we have now, which are porous or not enforced to the liking of X, Y, or Z, actual open border supporters, people that think the border shouldn't exist, there shouldn't be any checks on it at all, are going to make these lawsuits in order for these people to get the help that they feel they need. And that's what we're having here. So we have to change the law, because absent that, Biden's actually violating the law to try to do things that a lot of American citizens want him to do. It's what it is. Get your congressman to change the immigration law. Stop letting Republicans torpedo it just because they don't get a fucking border wall or whatever else. Or you're going to keep seeing this stuff. It's just what it is. Now, Tiger's decision Tuesday echoed his prior ruling on the issue under the Trump administration, which had instituted similar restrictions on asylum seekers. Tiger delayed his order from going into effect for 2 weeks to allow the administration to appeal his decision. In other words, if they appeal to the Supreme Court agrees to hear, or the next court up, whatever the next court is, Supreme Court more than likely. If they appeal to the next court, then that court agrees to hear the case, then that order would automatically be stayed by the hearing, yada, yada, yada. So it gives the judge, the higher judges, the ability to talk about it and decide whether or not that should go into effect pending review, or if it should be stayed pending review. That's just one part of the immigration snafu we're having. Now we have the other side. So Biden was trying to do something that Republicans would like, or that he agrees with, that's more conservative minded on the immigration issue. And now this is something that he's going to be doing that the Republicans are just going to hate and be against for whatever reason. Because I guess making people die is deterrence or something. I don't know, but we're going to talk about it. So if you haven't heard, Texas, under Governor Greg Abbott, in his Operation Lone Star, has decided to put buoys in the Rio Grande and put concertina wire, barbed wire, along the Rio Grande River. So along the banks, yes. Decided to put concertina wire, barbed wire along the banks of the Rio Grande River to deter migration by making it difficult, more dangerous, more deadly to try to cross the border on the river. For that, according to CBS News Dallas, reported that the Biden administration has filed their suit against the state of Texas in its response to those things around the Rio Grande in an effort to deter migrants. In its lawsuit, filed in federal court on Monday afternoon, the Biden administration said the buoys violate the River and Harbors Act, which, quote, prohibits the creation of any obstruction not affirmatively authorized by Congress to the navigable capacity of any waters in the United States. The lawsuit cites 19 specific examples in the federal statute. Southern Methodist University's constitutional law professor, Jeffrey Kahn, said the law is clear. Quote, the DOJ lawsuit is on very, very firm legal ground. The pictures that were taken by a Border Patrol officer and included in the complaint show that heavy construction equipment was necessary to put those things into the river. If that's not an obstruction, I don't know what is. Texas built its barrier of buoys in the Rio Grande near Eagle Pass as part of Operation Lone Star, which we said earlier, which is a multi-billion-dollar program the state leaders say is designed to boost border security. But the Biden administration says the buoys go against federal law. Governor Greg Abbott responded to the lawsuit stating, quote, Texas will see you in court, Mr. President. Appearing on Fox News, Abbott said, quote, they're using some obscure statute to try to stop us from deploying those buoys. It's not grounded in law whatsoever. We believe we have a right to do it. Which you don't. States do not have the right to enforce border security. They don't have the right to enforce immigration law. They don't have the right to do these things. That is up to the federal government. Federal government is supposed to be responsible for us. We have a federal system. Federal government makes immigration policy and laws. It is their responsibility and their purview. The states can assist at the government's request or not, depending on the state, what the state wants to do, but it cannot do it on its own. That's what we're supposed to have. According to Kahn, though, the state recently lost a legal challenge to the federal government on immigration. Quote, just a month ago, Texas was told in pretty convincing terms by the Supreme Court of the United States that it didn't have standing to tell the federal government how to prioritize its immigration arrest and deportation proceedings, Kahn said. Like we said, cannot tell the federal government how to do it and intervene. I think we're going to see the same results here, which is probably true. Okay. There's so much stuff to cover, and I gotta walk my dogs. All right. What we're going to do here, we're going to cover some more of this news. And then, Nikki, if you're still watching, we will cover some of this. I'll cover some of this later as just YouTube segments. So I will record some of this information as just YouTube segments and get them up there. Some of this stuff is important and it's timely, so we'll get to it there. But yeah, so I'll try to do that. I'm really far behind on editing and stuff because of not real life issues, just being busy in real life. So, but we'll do that. All right, so I'm going to skip that one. We'll skip that one. Skip that one. Okay. All right. So let's get into at least one news bite for y'all that are watching today. And for that news bite, we're going to talk about Hunter's plea deal falling apart. Let's talk about that. I have to fast forward this video. 5:30. All right. So let's get into it. So Hunter's Biden plea deal with the IRS fell apart in court just yesterday. The right-wing media bubble has made much of the development, but they may be celebrating too soon. As it turns out, the judge's rejection of the deal served to protect Hunter Biden's rights. We will now turn over to ABC News to discuss that very subject. Oh, it's muted. Sorry about that. The tab was muted.
Really Whaley for more on this case. Kim, is there any chance the judge rejects this plea deal?
Well, that's highly unusual. The point of this hearing today is not to probe the propriety of the prosecution and the investigation. The point is to protect Hunter Biden's constitutional rights. Her goal is to make sure he's accepting these charges knowingly and willingly and without any kind of coercion, and that the prosecution can make a proffer or articulate the evidence that it's gathered to, if it had gone to trial, to prove the elements of these relatively minor, I mean, they're charges, they're federal charges, but they're not the kind of money laundering, failure to, register as a foreign agent, the sort of big stuff relating to Ukraine that the Republicans were hoping, presumably politically, came out of this investigation. So I think it's highly unlikely that this will be anything other than a routine, sort of plea hearing.
All right. So with the routine plea hearing that we just talked about here, during that preliminary hearing where the judge decided to be like, okay, go back to the table and come back with this information, it was revealed that, let me pull this up because I have to pull it up on a specific place because I don't have it in front of me right now. Bear with me just a moment. Let me scroll down. All right. So, quote, at one point, the judge asked whether the investigation against the president's son was ongoing, to which Special Prosecutor Weiss responded that it was ongoing, but said he could not share any further details. Noriega also raised a hypothetical, asking if Noriega, the judge, asking if Biden could face charges for failing to register as a foreign agent and whether the agreement blocks his prosecution for such a charge. The defense said that they believed the agreement would prohibit him from being charged, and the prosecution then disagreed. In other words, they're not on the same page here. And so why accept this plea agreement, right? Why accept this if it wasn't going to make Hunter Biden immune from other prosecution? To that response, Hunter's lawyer said, well, then we wouldn't take the plea deal. So they're going to come together and they're going to make sure that there's acceptance of this or whatever, and they're going to come back. It might not work out like Republicans want, but it could. They could have been just objectively wrong about their assessment of what quote unquote Hunter's sweet deal actually was. Because as we just read, Weiss said that it is still an ongoing investigation and it is not exhausted what is going on. Now, could that be paused due to the sensitive nature around politics starting in next month? Is it August? Is it August of this year that happens, or is it August of next year that happens? Regardless of which, the DOJ typically pauses politically sensitive investigations during an ongoing election cycle to not look like they're interfering with the electoral process. Whether or not those charges get brought up before that pausing happens is still up in the air. I don't remember if it's August of this year, so we're talking the end of next month, which is just around the corner, or if it's August of next year, which gives the prosecutors a little more time to wrap up the investigation, bring any charges that they need to before, by DOJ policy, potentially they have to pause in order to look like they're not interfering with an election. So that's what we're having up there. Now, in also other news about Hunter Biden, I'm going to call it, yep, 60 days out from election. Okay. But does that, so Nikki said 60 days out from election. Yes, but I don't know. Okay. We'll just call it that. That's fine. So there's still time. There's still time. But in other news that's hounding around Hunter here is that maybe looking for all this dirt the Republicans are doing might not actually turn out so well. So per reporting from Raw Story, Republicans have focused their agenda around exposing the so-called Biden crime family, with hearings led by Republicans. Now this, I'm going to start that over. I'm going to get a cleaner cut. So On more news from Hunter Biden, there is some evidence that maybe trying to dig up all this dirt on him might not play to Republican advantage. So Republicans have focused their agenda around exposing the so-called Biden crime family, with hearings led by Representative Jim Jordan and James Comer. But they're starting to notice it isn't really connecting with the voters. Quote, "It smells like Benghazi," said GOP strategist Mike Madrid. Quote, "Republicans are desperately trying to make a story. It's always, we've got a witness coming. We've got more coming. It's always next week. It's like a soap opera. Tune in next week." A poll from last month found that half of Americans believe Hunter Biden received favorable treatment from federal prosecutors due to his father. But 60%, including 59% of independents, believe the president is being a good father for supporting his son through his legal problems. Quote, "Do they look at Donald Trump with nuclear codes as worse than Joe Biden having a conversation with Burisma?" Madrid said. "Neither of them matters as much as to independents as does a woman have a right to an abortion service. I don't think that these stories penetrate into public opinion the way they used to. They really haven't in modern times since at least 1998. In other words, we'll wash our hands of it because we care about the important issues, not these calls for or around necessarily corruption." Now, I think that's bad. I think the acceptance of corruption by the American people, whether it's because of partisan reasons or because, well, they all do it, so fuck it, as long as I'm doing okay, doesn't matter. Regardless of the reason, the acceptance of corruption, I believe, is bad. It helps break down trust in society. And we need to do things that increase trust in society. It's one of the government's number one jobs, is to foster enduring trust within the system so that people can trust their fellow citizens, their fellow man, their fellow residents, the people that live around them, to be generally good people in order to have a functioning society. Because if you don't trust people, if the trust in the system is bad, if it's low, and we talked about this in the podcast episode actually 2 years ago at this point, talk about this trust in the system. If that is down, if that is very low, then trust breaks down generally. Trust at the top breaks down, trust generally breaks down in society, and you have increases of crime, violence, graft, corruption, nepotism, etc. Because if everybody is corrupt, then by me not being corrupt, this is the thinking that people will go through, by me not being corrupt, I'm doing my family and myself a disservice. So I may as well play the game so that we get what we need in order to survive. So that's why these things are bad. This is why I'm not going to begrudge people that say, hey, Hunter got a sweet deal. Well, he kind of did, but it's not a sweet deal because he's the president's son. It's a sweet deal because, or the vice president's son or a career politician's son. It's not because of that necessarily. It's because the system is biased towards favorability of those in power and with money and connections. Hunter's plea agreement that his lawyer got him, that we just talked about, is pretty standard for the kind of crime that he committed in just in regards to the taxes that he didn't pay. Typically speaking, if a person fails to pay taxes but ends up paying the back taxes, government's like, all right, slap you on the wrist, all right, don't do it again, but it got its money before charges were levied. So therefore, it's just like, well, why go through the whole process of dragging this out, of having the government have to pay for lawyers to prosecute this crime when, yeah, it happened, it was bad, but we got our money, so what good does it do us to waste more money to try to get money we already got? Right? That's the reasoning behind it. And it makes sense. That makes sense. I don't like it, but I understand the logic behind it. Now, the stuff about the allegations that he flew sex workers across the country and tried to use his company's money to pay for them as a way to get around taxes, that sort of thing, that's a little bit of a more stickier issue. That said, I don't think most people in positions of power actually give a shit. Everybody that has money tries to get around paying their taxes in ways that are not good. They will claim a lunch. They'll like, oh, we had a lunch meeting, all right, and it was $2,000, and people are like, $2,000 for a fucking lunch meeting? Are you kidding me? And then they'll look at it and be like, well, we had like 10 people there, and we actually wine and dine our clients really well, so we bought like really good champagne and like all this other stuff. Oftentimes, stuff like that will actually be like, okay, that's legit, as long as it's kind of like the industry standard for it. You can't do above and beyond the industry standard and claim it as a business expense, right? So paying for a sex worker on a business account, saying that she actually works as like a golf caddy or something, illegal. That's not going to be good. That said, a lot of rich people that do these sort of things have had similar instances, and they don't want to get prosecuted for it, and they don't care, and Republicans don't give a shit about taxes, really. So this is why we kind of see these things happen. It's not endemic to, it's not endemic to just be Biden. It's not Biden doing it. It's not Joe Biden saying, don't do this, prosecutors, necessarily. There's a possibility, but it doesn't mean that it's actually happening. We don't have any evidence of it actually happening. We don't have evidence of the DOJ as of right now. Possibility it is there, but as of right now, we don't have evidence that the DOJ put its thumb on the scale for political advantage. It's not there, especially since, as we just read previously, Weiss is still investigating Hunter over these other allegations that the other allegations that Republicans really want him to hit him on. Okay, so it's possible that we'll see more indictments against members of Joe Biden's family. It's possible that we won't. Maybe they'll be like, it's outside the statute of limitations, or this is not really like corruption. Like, there's all sorts of possibilities, but it's not over yet as evident. So we have to wait for more evidence to come out. So if you want to debate me on this or talk about it or whatever, you know where to hit me up at. Find me on Discord. Not going to share my Twitter much anymore. Just find me on Discord. You can DM me there. We can talk about it. We can set up a thing if you want to talk about it. Again, highly recommend everybody go watch the Counterpoints, Rob Knorr versus Pondering Politics and Pisco debate on these issues. It's very well read and researched. Even if you don't want to agree with either side's narratives, because there are narratives, there are partisanships that are happening there, especially with Rob Knorr. Yeah, I'm going to say it. Rob, you're a partisan. It's fucking obvious. Fight me over it. I don't give a shit. Like, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but don't claim that you're not a partisan, right? I don't claim I'm not partisan. I don't like Republicans. So I have distrust in Republicans. Republicans, and by that I mean Republican lawmakers, not general run-of-the-mill Republicans, unless they're a political actor. If you're a political actor, which everybody in this space is to a degree a political actor, right? If you're a political actor, then I'm going to look at what narrative you're trying to build and see if it makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, then that partisanship that comes out is going to look bad to me. And I think that's fair. We try to be as nonpartisan as we can with our factual reporting, but with my opinions that are peppered throughout this, that is my bias coming out. And I think everybody is aware of that, and I make it pretty clear of where I stand. All right, but with that concludes this segment of the News Roundup. Now, if this is the first time you have joined the Roundup, this is the first time you've seen this, we like to close out our News Roundup with some news of the weird. And this week is pretty cool like usual. So we have just one video we want to share with y'all from Instagram. And I'm going to have it muted because I don't want to get dinged by YouTube's copyright issues with this, because I'm sure it's playing music in the background. But we have some orcas. The orcas are, everybody knows about this, right? Y'all know about the comrade orcas taking out yachts, right? Well, we now see sharks, my friends. We now see sharks are biting boat engines. What is that scene? What is that scene from Metalocalypse? turn it up. Okay, I'll turn it up. So we'll play the music. But if I get copyright strike, Nikki, I'm gonna blame you. Remember that scene from Metalocalypse where it was like, we're doing this for the fish. Awaken, 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 right? If you know that, what I'm talking about, that's what we're seeing. The sea is angry. It is angry at us for our climate destruction ways. And they are coming for us. Let's watch.
This massive shark attacked my friend's boat. I was flying my drone at the beach and spotted 2 huge cobia swimming with a bull shark. Cobia is one of the best tasting fish in the ocean, so I called my buddy Carl and he raced over to try to catch them. I was following his boat with my drone, and then all of a sudden, the shark attacked his engines.
Yeah, fuck your engine. Check it. Damn. Comrade Shark boys. No, I'm kidding. I don't think this is good.
The shark attacked the boat 5 times, swam away, and then came back for more.
That engine is tasty. Jeez.
In total, the shark attacked Carl's boat 8 times.
We're thinking, you know, maybe he grabbed the propeller. We weren't expecting the damage that we had when we got back to the dock, and it was just astronomical. The whole middle of the engine is completely ripped out.
Wow.
The trim tab's broken, and I didn't think a shark could actually shake the boat like that. The boat was shaking like a bag of popcorn. Like literally, I was like shaking like an earthquake. I was like, what's going on? I went back there, and then I noticed it was the shark doing it. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is like a ride from Universal Studios.
Watch this massive shark.
All right. But that, my friends, I am sad to say that we are out of time. We know you liked what you heard because you stuck with us to the end, so please smash that like button for the algorithms. It really does help us out. I'd like to give special thanks to our viewers tonight who made this more entertaining by providing their commentary, jumping in to say hi, checking us out, and giving us some feedback, because without you, the listeners, the viewers, I would just be a person shouting into the void of the internet. And while that is fun, and I do enjoy it, it's not as much fun as you being here and interacting with us, so we appreciate that. I'd like to give our copy producer, Nikki, the accolades that she deserves, because without her, this copy would not be as good or robust as it is now, because she does a lot of time on this, pulling together news articles, writing some of the copy, and the like. So without her, this wouldn't be here, so we like to thank her. Appreciate it, Nikki. Appreciate it. And our community, both on Facebook and Discord, I'd like to thank them as well, because they give us a lot of articles and information that helps us curate this to a degree. They share their articles, we see it, we're able to see what more news is happening because of how different people are interested in different stuff, and they share it with us, and so we're able to give a proper news roundup that includes a lot of stuff. Again, please go ahead and join the Discord. We are going to be having events there and other things, and that's the primary way that you're going to be able to get a hold of us, other than Mastodon and oops, that was the wrong button. And possibly Blue Sky. Oh, that's not working now. Something happened. Something happened with the Mastodon button. That's fine. We'll just do it really quick. There it goes. So, yeah, Mastodon, Federated at CSP.federated.press, and Blue Sky. We are on Blue Sky. I'm on Blue Sky now, but I don't have a little cutesy Blue Sky emoji thing to show up there, but I'm at Blue Sky at CSP Cypher. So you can find me at Blue Sky as well. But that's where you can get a hold of us going forward. And yeah, as we say at Crowdsource Politics, keep your head up through the political storm.